Follow Christ's example. In the book of 1 Peter, chapter 2, verse 21, the Bible says, for to this you have been called. You have been called because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example so that you might follow his steps. Everybody in this world has been called to be like Christ. You have been called to be like Christ. We have been called to follow the example of Jesus. We have been called, I have been called, you have been called to follow the example of Jesus. Now the question is this: are you following his example? Are you following the example of God? Are you really sure that what you're doing today, that God is proud of it? Are you sure that Jesus is proud of everything you are doing? My friends, I ask you again, are you really sure that you are following the example of Jesus? Are you following the example of my Father? Because man has been called to follow the leading of Jesus. Man has been called to follow the leading of Jehovah. Man has been called to follow the footsteps of God. I ask you again, are you really following his steps? Are you really following Jesus? Are you really following Jesus? Are you following Jesus? Are you following Jesus? My friends, are you following the footsteps of my Father? If anyone asks you today, whose example are you following? Is it that of God or that of Satan? My sister, don't sit on the fence. Answer me tonight. Whose example are you following? Whose example are you following? Are you following the example of God, or you are following the example of Satan? Are you following the example of the Lord Almighty, or you are following the example of Satan? My brother, my sisters, follow the leading of God, because men have been called to be Christ-like. In the book of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 29, the Bible says, take my yoke upon you and live and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. And in the book of 1 John, chapter 2, verse 6, the Bible says, whoever sets abide in him ought to walk in the same way in which he walked. My friends, I ask you again, are you walking according to the plan of God? Are you following the example of Jesus? Are you following the leading of my Father? Because everybody in this world, it is either you belong to Jesus or you belong to Satan. It is either you say yes to Jesus, or you say yes to Satan. Yes to Satan. You can't belong to God and belong to Satan. You can't be a child of God and be a child of Satan. You can't serve Jesus and serve Satan. You can't serve my Father and serve Satan.